Data replication needs some planning in a cloud implementation. Distributed work groups make it harder. Some new ideas coming up. SDR News coverage of AWS reInvent made possible by Dome 9. Total control and visibility over your cloud infrastructure, network, and host security. Garantia, the in-memory NoSQL company, offering enterprise-class Redis for developers. Encapsula, website security, always-on protection from bots and DDoS and real-time stats on visitors and threats. Skillbase, leveraging MySQL and scaling out data at the speed of your business. And eMind, architecting, building, and operating enterprise-grade clouds in billion-dollar HIPAA, PCI DSS, and SOX environments. More coverage of AWS reInvent online or on the SDR News Roku channel.
So this is Tim Crawford with Avoa doing an interview here with Ilesfay, and I've got the CEO, Chris McLennan, to talk a little more about what they bring to the enterprise and the CEO.
Great, yes. So Ilesfay Technology Group, we do cloud-based data replication. We've got some unique technology that we characterize as transfer avoidance technology. We've got some patents, but basically our technology helps find the match between content that's already been replicated to a remote site, and then we leverage that match by not sending it again, only sending the difference between what a remote site has and what it needs.
So there are other ways you can do this, but talk a little more about the applicability. I mean, how would people really use this in your traditional enterprise environment? Is this a DR play? Are there other use cases? Give me a little bit of insight there.
Sure. So one use case is disaster recovery for sure, but most of our clients are actually large enterprise companies that have large distributed work groups. And so these are knowledge workers at each one of these sites all across the globe that'll be updating big blobs, big files. So engineering data, large creative files, and they need to be shared with knowledge workers in other locations. And so our tech will basically scan that data when a change happens and only send the difference. But it does it at a speed and a scale that's unique.
So there are native storage technologies that can do this on the back end, assuming you're using the same vendors, the same products. What makes your solution different? I mean, what's the differentiator where the rubber hits the road?
So a big part is actually the way that we scale, which is through cloud, infrastructure as a service layer. So our technologies are basically designed to scale in the cloud. So traditional kind of deduplication technologies are very much serial. And you can only scale up to the size of the pipe that goes into the facility. Ours is set up to scale in cloud, so we can put a lot more compute resources. Even our delta encoding methods can run over hundreds or even thousands of compute nodes in the cloud. So it's very disruptive, very different than legacy approaches.
Interesting. So tell me a little more about other use cases beyond DR.
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, a lot of our current customers are actually distributed work group customers, but we do have use cases where we're using our tech to essentially replicate like virtual machine images into cloud for migration, or keeping migrated images synchronized, on like daily syncs, things like that. So not just DR, but also collaboration and business continuity and migration.
With the announcement this morning about desktops in the cloud now and kind of the replacement to some of the traditional Citrix or VDI approaches, where do you play in that?
Yeah. So the desktop virtualization is a tool that can solve a handful of problems and important problems. When data can be centralized and just screen captures and clicks of mice distributed, then fantastic. That's great. Our tech is really set up for use cases where that wouldn't be appropriate. Where you've got enormous files that are being accessed by it's like on specialty workstations, and it doesn't make sense to centralize them. It actually makes sense to distribute the workflow and the workers, but you still need to synchronize the data. So I think we kind of go hand in hand with a lot of new emerging tools that are coming out there to help folks be more productive.
So if I look at the data itself, is there a clear-cut use case that says if your data is pretty static, then your solution plays really well, but if it's very dynamic, then maybe it doesn't play as well, or vice versa?
Yeah, so great insight. Basically our technology brings the most value when the objects, the way that the data is being managed is kind of in a blob, and it's changing frequently. And maybe there's not an enormous user community that's consuming them, so maybe technologies like content delivery networks don't make sense, but it's still very important data, important to those knowledge workers. And so our tech, is kind of laser focused to bring value and, kind of call it business file collaboration use cases.
Excellent. So if folks wanted a little more information on what you're doing and how to leverage your tool,
Yeah.
where do they go?
So go to our website, www.ilesfay.com. You can also test drive our ZoneSync product for free in the Amazon Marketplace and the RightScale Marketplace.
Very good. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Tim.